Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something pretty fundamental, making decisions. But we're looking at it through a specific lens, using some really interesting ideas from Tony Feghali.
Yeah, his whole angle is that there's no single right way to make a decision. It's much more personal than that.
Exactly. He argues it really needs to be tailored to your personality, your thinking style. So if you've ever felt kind of overwhelmed or stressed by making choices, especially, when you're under pressure.
Which happens a lot.
Right. This deep dive is definitely for you. Our goal here is to unpack Feghali's core principles to help you, the listener, think about designing a decision-making process that feels, well, authentic and effective.
And what I find compelling right from the start is Feghali's emphasis on the individual. He literally says things like, some people move fast, some move quietly.
Yeah, I saw that quote.
Every leader deserves their own process. And that, for me, immediately challenges this sort of corporate or standard best practice idea that there's one method we should all be using.
Totally. It suggests our own natural rhythms, our values, how we actually process information that should be the starting point, not an afterthought. And Feghali, he also highlights some common pitfalls, right? Especially in fast-paced situations, things we probably all recognize.
Oh, for sure. Like just saying yes to something immediately without really checking if you have the bandwidth or if it aligns. Just that reflex yes.
Or the opposite, the reflex no, just because something feels a bit uncomfortable or unfamiliar.
Right. Or, this is a big one, seeking too much advice. You ask 10 different people, get 10 different opinions, and suddenly you're more confused than when you started. It just muddies the waters.
Yeah, information overload. And then focusing too much on finding the absolute right answer, like there's one perfect solution hiding somewhere.
Instead of just aiming for clarity. Getting clear on what matters to you in that situation. Feghali argues these reactive patterns often come from, well, trying to avoid discomfort or maybe a fear of getting it wrong.
Makes sense.
But he shifts the focus. Instead of just focusing on the outcome, he focuses on the process. He gives us a pretty straightforward framework, actually, for designing something more personalized.
Okay, so what's the first part of that framework?
It starts with, start with space, not urgency.
Space, not urgency. I like that. It sounds counterintuitive when things feel urgent, though.
It does, but he suggests even a short pause, like 10 or 15 minutes, maybe longer if you can, before you decide anything, just to step back.
That idea of creating just a little bit of mental breathing room, yeah, that feels really powerful. It stops you from just reacting on impulse.
Exactly. That space lets you shift from being purely reactive to being more intentional. It's a deliberate break. It lets you sort of assess the landscape a bit more clearly.
Okay, so you create space. Then what?
Then, Feghali says, you ask yourself a key question. What is this decision meant to serve?
Ah, the purpose behind it. Not just what decision, but why this decision.
Precisely. What's the underlying goal here? Are you trying to achieve growth? Or maybe focus? Simplify things. Perhaps it's about sustainability or building a relationship.
Defining that purpose first, Feghali argues that really helps organize the options, doesn't it? Like, it gives you a filter.
It absolutely acts as a filter. If you know the decision is meant to serve, say, simplification, then you can evaluate the different paths based on how well they achieve that, rather than just, a generic pros and cons list that might pull you in different directions.
Right, it anchors the decision in something meaningful. Okay, so space, then purpose. What's next in Feghali's framework?
The next step is about how you think. He says, let your thinking happen in your natural mode.
This one really struck me too, because we all process things differently, don't we? Some people need to talk it out.
External processors.
Others need quiet time to write or make lists. Some people, like Feghali mentions, might even think best while walking or moving.
Yeah, kinesthetic thinkers. It's about recognizing and honoring how your brain actually works best to generate insight. Instead of forcing yourself into a box like, I must sit at my desk and make a spreadsheet for every decision.
Which can feel really draining if that's not your natural style.
Totally. Trying to force a thinking style that isn't yours can actually block clarity. Feghali's point, I think, is that aligning the process of thinking with your natural preference helps you see things more clearly and maybe even come up with better, more creative solutions. Wow. It leverages your strengths.
So it's about efficiency, but also effectiveness by tapping into your own best way of working.
Okay, makes sense. Space, purpose, natural mode. Yes. What's the final piece?
The final piece is choose with alignment, then follow through with intention.
Alignment and intention. Tell me more about that.
Alignment here means making a choice that feels, well, grounded for you. It resonates with your understanding, your values, the purpose you defined earlier. It feels settled, even if the outcome isn't guaranteed. You feel okay with the path chosen. So it's not just logical, it has to feel right on some level.
Kind of, yeah. It's that sense of inner coherence. And then you follow through with intention. That means committing to the chosen path with focused action, putting your energy behind it.
Which probably reduces that awful second-guessing we sometimes do after making a big choice.
Exactly. Feghali talks about grounded momentum. You've done the work, you've aligned the choice, now you move forward purposefully. It solidifies the decision.
And Feghali ties all this back to some really positive outcomes, right? When your process fits you well.
Yeah, he suggests that decisions made this way feel more energizing rather than draining. You get sharper ideas. Your conversations about the decision become more focused. Communication within a team can improve.
Because everyone understands the why and the how behind it.
Right. It creates a supported path forward. His core message seems to be that clarity, and therefore impact, comes from this personal alignment, not just from external pressure or trying to fit a mold.
I think that's a really powerful idea. It takes the pressure off finding the perfect way and puts the focus on finding your way. And he leaves us with a really practical question to reflect on, doesn't he?
He does. He asks, essentially, what part of your current decision-making process already works well for you?
Acknowledge the strengths.
And then what part could maybe use a little redesign?
Yeah.
It's a direct invitation to actually look at how you make choices and consciously tweak it. Not overhaul everything necessarily, but refine.
So if we boil it all down, the big takeaway from Feghali seems to be this. Consciously designing a decision-making process that actually honors your individual rhythm, your values, your thinking style. It's not just about feeling better, though that's part of it.
Right, it's also about effectiveness.
It leads to more confident, less stressful, and ultimately likely better decisions and outcomes.
I think so. And it's very actionable, which I appreciate about his approach. It's not just abstract theory.
Definitely. So maybe a final thought to leave you, the listener, with. Just consider how consciously bringing in even one of these elements, maybe starting with that pause, that space Feghali talks about, before you react to the next decision that lands on your plate.
Just that one small change.
Yeah. How might that shift your experience? It's really about experimenting, observing yourself, and seeing what impact these small adjustments can have. It's about finding what truly serves you and making clearer, more aligned choices.
A process of discovery, really.
Yeah.